In the 3rd year of being the Empress, I finally gave up. My husband crowned me as Empress, yet he spent every night in the palace of the Noble Consort. My child was at my knee, but wished for another mother. With a potion that feigned death, I fulfilled their wishes. Later, we met again on the street, the father and son both with reddened eyes. "Come back with me, you are still my Empress." "Mother, don't you want me anymore, Mother? Where did these impostors come from?" I held my child tightly, looking at them with a face full of unfamiliarity. When did I ever give birth to 2 children? Ding! This novel reminds you to click the subscribe button in the bottom right corner to read the complete novel. Everything is at His Majesty's disposal. I knelt on the ground, not raising my head. Xiao Miran was very surprised. "You mean, you agree?" "Yes." I also thought that I would never agree, even if it killed me. Xiao Miran wanted me to send Chusun to Noble Consort's palace, to be raised under Shuiryu's name. How ridiculous. I am his original wife, his first wife, the Empress he announced to the world. Yet he wants me to give the child I risked my life to bear, to his noble consort. Because Shuiryu rarely has a fondness. Ryu is naturally indifferent to fame and wealth. The position of Empress is already given to you, it's just a child. For Chusun, she even drank the potion to end her lineage. What more do you want? I know you can't bear it, but we will have more in the future. In the future, we can have many more children. He must have forgotten. When giving birth to Xiao Chusun, he was leading troops to attack Jie City. When we was attacked, I hid in a cave, and only after 3 days and nights did I finally have a son. After that, we were displaced, and the imperial physician had long predicted that future offspring would be difficult. Are you sure? Xiao Miran still had some disbelief. I am just an orphaned girl. My father and brothers died early in his quest for the throne. I could be crowned as Empress because of 10 years of hardship and because of the only crown prince at my knee. I have already asked my maid to pack Chusun's things. I think they have already been sent to Noble Consort's palace by now. Xiao Miran suddenly fell silent. He looked at me with a complex gaze. After a while, do not learn from the noble women of the capital, playing some schemes. Otherwise. He left with a stern face, flicking his sleeves. He truly overestimated me. In the idle chatter of the palace servants, I am just a country woman, if not for the good burial of my ancestors. And having a husband like Xiao Miran, I wouldn't even touch the threshold of the capital in this lifetime. How could I compare with the noble women of the capital? I stood up from the cold ground, dusting off the dirt from my skirt. I sat in front of the dressing mirror, opened the dressing box. Took out a small porcelain bottle. Poured out the pills inside. Without blinking, I swallowed them. I just intended to fulfill their wishes. My name is Jiao Susu. I have brute strength. When I was born, my parents hoped I would grow strong and healthy. I grew up as they hoped. That scholarly Miran from next door falls ill every few days. Even though he's a year older than me, he's never taller than I am. He always likes to play with me. He teases me, "Jiao Susu, you have strength, I have brains. If we play together, even the emperor wouldn't scare us." All the way until the eve of our wedding, chaos erupted in the world. I wanted to postpone the wedding, but he still said, "Jiao Susu, you have strength, I have brains. Marry me, what is there to fear?" I'm not afraid of marrying him. I'm afraid of becoming a burden to him. My weak Miran has grown tall and strong, skilled in both literature and martial arts. The village teacher says he will surely achieve great things. Luckily, my brute strength has been useful. It allowed me to pull him out from a pile of corpses and carry him over 3 mountain peaks. It allowed me to hide in a cave, enduring pain for 3 days and nights without uttering a sound. It allowed me to take Chusun and hide in the enemy camp, serving as a slave to raise him. At that time, I was extremely proud. My Miran is truly smart. He really has brains, and I really have strength. The royal palace? Becoming the Empress? No fear at all. I was so naive back then. The glittering palace is not a place where strength is needed, nor a place where strength can be used. The first to change were the people around me. Before, when I was with Miran, the people around him all respectfully called me sister-in-law. Sister-in-law, the flatbread you made is so delicious. Sister-in-law, your needlework is so beautiful. Sister-in-law, you carried the general so far, did you get hurt? When I brought 3-year-old Chusun out of the enemy camp, the soldiers knelt before me, their eyes all red. With a thunderous voice, sister-in-law, we arrived late. After entering the palace, no one called me sister-in-law anymore. The leading eunuch bowed to me, called me your highness. And the scene fell into an awkward silence for a moment. Various gazes washed over me. I was never a clever person. But at that moment, I suddenly understood. In the capital, there are many nobles, even the palace maids have fair skin and red lips. They are delicate and charming. I unconsciously lowered my head. 3 years in the enemy camp, my skin was cracked by the northern wind, my face tanned by the scorching sun. And my hands. I hid my hands in my sleeves. The layers of calluses were probably more than those of the lowest servants in the palace. The second to change was Miron. Oh, shortly after entering the palace, I realized. There was no Miron, only Emperor Xiao Miron. Xiao Miron took a noble consort. The eldest daughter of Prime Minister Xue Ryu. Before Xue Ryu entered the palace, Xiao Miron held my hand and gently explained to me. Susu, the army's swift advance into the capital was largely due to Prime Minister Xue's efforts. The Xue family is deeply rooted in the capital. Preserving your position as Empress has already taken much negotiation. Regardless, you are my only wife. Does this make sense to you? I neither nodded nor shook my head. I just asked him, is the lady of the Xue family beautiful? Xiao Miron smiled and pinched my nose, not as beautiful as my Susu. He lied to me. Xue Ryu is as beautiful as jade, even her walking posture is something I can't learn. She is also a few years younger than me. Whenever things don't go her way, she looks at Xiao Miron with rabbit-like red eyes, complaining. At first, he found it troublesome. He said he couldn't serve such a delicate lady. Later, he stayed more and more often at Noble Consort's palace. Eventually, even on the 1st and 15th of each month, she would have him called away. One night, I stumbled upon them. The moon was like a round disc, Xue Ryu was playing the zither under it. Xiao Miron reclined beside her, drinking wine. He looked at her. His lips held a smile, his eyes filled with the shimmering moonlight. That night, I learned my first poem. Without rhyme or reason told, his heart went stone cold. But he said without shame, the fickleness is to blame. In truth, it's just like this, I don't want to leave. The feigned death pill in that porcelain bottle was given to me with a warning. Unless absolutely necessary, do not use it. After all, it's a medicine, and it might have some toxicity. For example, it might make me forget some people, some things. I thought I would never use it. No matter what Xiao Miron becomes, this palace, and Chusun. The child I carried for 10 months and raised with all my heart. When the entire harem laughed at me for being vulgar and unworthy of the position. He, with his childish voice, would punish those people one by one. He liked to nestle in my arms, secretly calling me mother when no one was around. Saying, "Mother, Chusun loves you the most." And then he would give me a sweet kiss. When did it start to change? Probably when he started attending the Imperial Academy. I couldn't recognize many words. Couldn't accompany him in reading or practicing calligraphy. Couldn't understand the essays that others praised. His father, the emperor, was in the Noble Consort's palace, so he often went there. One year on his birthday, Xue Ryu gave him a sleeve crossbow. She had instructed a craftsman from the Xue family to specially make it for him. Exquisitely crafted, the only one of its kind in the world. From then on, he often mentioned Noble Consort mother in his words. I wasn't jealous of Chusun getting close to Xue Ryu. He is the crown prince. In the future, he would have to associate with the Xue family. Only once. That day, Chusun ran too fast and forgot his coat. It was cold in winter, and I feared he would catch a chill, so I chased after him with it. Before I caught up, I saw him happily rush into the gates of Noble Consort's palace. Mother! And he fell into Xue Ryu's embrace. I remembered the 3 days and nights when I gave birth to him. It was also such a cold and freezing time. Outside were bandits searching for me with torches. I hid in the depths of a cave, with most of my body submerged in the pool. Letting my abdomen contract, biting on a cloth, not daring to make a sound. When he was finally born, I was covered in blood, my mouth full of blood. But it turns out, he could also call another woman mother. I cried for a while, then didn't think much of it. A mother doesn't hold grudges against her child. A child not yet 6 years old, what could I hold against him? Until Shriveryu proposed that Chusun move to Noble Consort's palace. To be recorded under her name as her son. Your Majesty, I know you fear my father, fear the Shui family. I love you so much, how could I bear to make things difficult for you? I won't have children. I truly love Chusun, as long as you give him to me, I will never have children for the rest of my life. That thunderous night, Shriveryu, in front of me and Xiao Miran, drank a bowl of infertility soup. Empress, if you truly love Chusun, give him to me. I can give him the entire Shui family. What can you give him, huh? She clutched her stomach, crying her heart out. But I was unwilling. No one knew how difficult it was for me to give birth to Chusun. Just as no one knew, in those 3 years in the enemy camp, to keep myself alive, to keep Chusun alive. What kind of humiliation I endured. Just a child. Give him to the Noble Consort, and you still will be the Empress Dowager in the future. Jiao Susu, what are you trying to do? Xiao Miran, heartbroken, supported Shriveryu, speaking harshly. I looked at the blood flowing from under Shriveryu. Was I wrong? Was it wrong for me to want to keep my own child? Chusun rushed in at this moment. He pushed me hard. You don't love me at all. You're not my mother. You have nothing, yet you want to keep me. Why didn't you die sooner? Boom. A thunderous clap. I fell to the ground. Looking at the 3 people huddled together, I finally understood. I was wrong. Terribly wrong. They were the real family. I took their position. Took their child. I should have disappeared long ago. I fell ill. That monk back then didn't deceive me. I declined naturally and quickly. On the 5th day after taking the medicine, I started coughing up blood. But my health had always been good. And the one in Noble Consort's palace had taken the infertility medicine. All the imperial doctors were gathered there. No one noticed anything unusual about me. On the 7th day, Xiao Chusun came back once. Seeing me lying on the bed, he didn't come over. He just mumbled, "Mother, don't blame me. You will have other children in the future. But Noble Consort Mother only has me." After saying that, he ran off with his sleeve crossbow. I smiled, then started coughing. Not wanting the maid to find out, I simply swallowed the blood I coughed up. At night, Xiao Miran also came. He seemed to want to reward me, actually taking off his clothes, wanting to be with me. I pushed him away forcefully, coughing repeatedly. Where does the smell of blood come from? Without the lamp, he couldn't see clearly. I steadied my breath. My period has come. Xiao Miran paused, but didn't leave, instead he came to hold me. The Noble Consort is weak, she probably doesn't want to smell my scent on you, Your Majesty. Xiao Miran finally moved a bit away from me. But he sat up, holding my hand again. Susu, be good, some things, just endure and they will pass. No matter what, Chusun is your child, always your son. I didn't respond. He continued. This 15th, shall I take you out of the palace to play? I want to return to Jiao family village. I said. Okay. When I have time. I want to return to Jiao family village. Xiao Miran probably frowned. After tomorrow when Chusun officially belongs to Ryu. Okay. I withdrew my hand. Xiao Miran wanted to hold it again, but a palace servant came to report. Your Majesty, the Noble Consort is having a nightmare. Go. I tucked myself in. Xiao Miran looked at me for a while, not moving. Your Majesty, the Noble Consort. The outside urged. Enough. Xiao Miran shouted. Got up and dressed. I turned to the side, only opening my eyes when I heard footsteps. Xiao Miran was no longer the same size as before. Even his figure was different. Now he was tall and slender, like a noble young master born to be pampered. But as I watched his back, growing further and further away, smaller and smaller. I don't know why, but he suddenly turned into that short, stout boy from back then. Jiao Susu, you have strength, I have brains, if you play with me, even the emperor won't scare us. Jiao Susu, you have strength, I have brains, marry me, what are you afraid of? Jiao Susu, you have strength, No. Miron, I no longer have the strength. I wa and vomited large mouthfuls of blood. The crown prince is to be adopted under the name of the Noble Consort. But clearly, the Empress is still alive. The Emperor's favor towards the Noble Consort is truly unprecedented. Moreover, the adoption is usually just a matter of the Department of Internal Affairs handling the paperwork. Yet that day, the Noble Consort coyly nestled in the Emperor's arms, saying, "Shouldn't we let Chusun offer me a cup of tea in front of everyone? Otherwise, it would seem as if I'm snatching her child without any explanation." The Emperor didn't even think twice and nodded in agreement. So on this day, at the break of dawn, the Noble Consort's palace was bustling with activity. The Emperor, the Crown Prince, the Noble Consort, and several concubines who had entered the palace just a month ago were all present. Even Prime Minister Shui was there. Xiao Chusun could hardly wait. The Noble Consort had already told him. By becoming her child, he would have grandparents and several uncles. He could often be taken out of the palace to play. But as the hour was passing, the Empress had yet to appear. I told you she can't be trusted. She must have regretted it. Xiao Chusun kicked the tea table in front of him in displeasure. Watch out you don't hurt your foot. Shui Ruyu lifted him onto her lap and looked towards the seat of honor, Your Majesty. Xiao Miron's face was stern, go fetch the Empress. Immediately, a palace attendant left. I knew she was just fooling me. Shui Ruyu's eyes reddened. How could she possibly bear to part with Chusun? Why does she have to be here? Xiao Chusun complained. Father and mother are here, that's enough. It's not like I'm offering her tea. Your Highness, it was Prime Minister Shui who spoke. The Empress is your birth mother, Your Highness should show respect. Xiao Chusun lowered his head, muttering, just because I didn't humor her yesterday. I'll make it up to her another day. Another cup of tea's time passed, and still, the Empress did not arrive. Xiao Miron set down his teacup with a clang, about to lose his temper. Just then, the palace attendant who had left hurried back. Entering the hall, they knelt in panic. Your Majesty. The Empress has passed away. In truth, I wasn't sure if that medicine could really make me appear dead to escape. When I was 14, I saved a young monk. It wasn't an act seeking repayment, but the young monk held on to me. Young lady, your destiny is beyond words, please accept this from this humble monk. He gave me a book, instructing me to give it to my future husband. At the time, I hadn't yet been betrothed to Xiao Miron and found it all very puzzling. He looked me over, then handed me a small porcelain bottle. After explaining its use in detail, he sighed. If one does not cherish the blessings of heaven, it is lamentable. He shook his head and left. For many years, I regarded it as an odd event. Until Xiao Miron told me that the book was a military strategy manual. And with that book, he won battle after difficult battle. So perhaps the feigned death medicine the monk gave me was truly that miraculous? I followed the method he described years ago and took the medicine. Then, as he instructed, I sent a message to the temple outside the palace. That night, after Xiao Miron left, I used the blood I coughed up to write a letter in blood. I wrote, Miron, I want to return to Jiao family village. Bury me in the peach blossom grove. I wasn't sure if he would follow my wishes. But when I regained consciousness, I smelled the faint scent of peach blossoms. Your Majesty. I even heard voices, Your Majesty. The Empress is gone, please let her go in peace. It turned out I was in a coffin. Though I had consciousness, my body couldn't move. I could barely sense my breathing. Susu. Someone was tapping the coffin. From the voice, it was Xiao Miron. Susu. He seemed to be crying. Susu, why didn't you tell me about such a grave illness? Susu, are you teasing me? Wake up, I command you to wake up. The tapping suddenly grew louder. Xiao Miron shouted. Someone. Open the coffin. Open it for me. My heart tightened. The monk had said I would appear dead for 10 days. 10 days, surely I was now in Jiao family village. But after all, it was a feigned death. If the coffin was opened, my body would show no decay, no livor mortis. Surely it would be exposed. Father! Then came the sound of a child's cry. Didn't you say mother was just asleep? Why are you burying her in the ground? They said passed away means dead, never to return. Is that true, father? It was Xiao Chusun. What followed was a cacophony, advising that opening the coffin was a grave taboo, disturbing the Empress's spirit. Kneeling and swearing it wasn't them gossiping with the young prince. Shouting that the noble consort was unwell at the post station. Suddenly someone exclaimed, "The crown prince. The prince's convulsions have returned." Xiao Chusun had a fever as a child, which wasn't treated in time. It left him with a tendency to convulse when he had a fever. Outside, chaos erupted. "Lower the coffin!" Finally, it was Prime Minister Shui's commanding shout. "Your Majesty, please take the crown prince back to the post station for treatment. Your Majesty, please take the crown prince back to the post station for treatment," everyone pleaded. Finally, it grew quiet around me. My consciousness began to fade. When I became aware again, it was the bitter taste on my tongue. So bitter that I gasped sharply. Opening my eyes, I saw the young monk in his robe. Time had turned, yet he still looked the same as back then. Holding prayer beads, he bowed, Amitabha. "Finally, I have repaid your life-saving grace." I went to the neighboring country. After working alongside Xiao Miran for many years, his confidants are now important figures in various places. Many people recognize me. I lingered outside Jiao village for 3 months, waiting for the right opportunity to buy a fake identity and a travel permit. After another 3 months, I made my way to the border of Wei country, blending in with the refugees from the Wei dynasty. To avoid my accent giving me away, I pretended to be a mute woman. However, the Wei dynasty's household registration system is strict and doesn't allow women to establish their own households. So, 6 months after entering Wei dynasty, I got married. The man was named Shinjunyan, a blacksmith. I met him in the refugee camp. He originally had a blacksmith shop at the border between the two countries. But after the war, the officials from the Wei dynasty took his shop and forced him into the refugee camp. It was winter at the time. Once, I noticed his winter boots had a big tear and were unwearable. I took them and stitched them up for him. After that, I often saw him around me. After entering Wei dynasty's capital, everyone registered their household and obtained an identity. Only I had no parents above, no siblings below, couldn't speak, and couldn't write. The officer sighed, "You look decent enough, find a man and get married. Otherwise, you can only become a lowly servant." I've been a lowly servant before. But before I could respond, Shinjunyan pulled me away. He said he had 2 small shops outside the capital and a few acres of good land. He also mentioned his mother had passed away, his father was kind-hearted, and his siblings were all married. Then he stammered and hesitated. "Why don't you marry me?" I don't mean it like that. It's just, you marry me first, get the household registration. In the future, if you meet someone you like, I'll give you a divorce letter. Wan, don't worry, it's just a formality, His cheeks turned red. "I respect you, and won't cross the line." But a year later, we consummated the marriage. Shinjunyan is a very good person. He would run around for my mute illness, and was overjoyed to tears when he found out I was actually healthy. Jiao Susu had long died in that impenetrable palace. Su Wan was willing to accept a new life. Another year passed, and we had a daughter. On the day of delivery, I remained silent as usual. But Shinjunyan, who could forge iron weighing 100 pounds without changing his expression, cried like the earth was shaking. Wan, we won't have any more children. It's all my fault, giving birth to such a life-threatening child." I told him I wasn't easy to get pregnant, yet he insisted on taking medicine for half a year, completely eliminating the possibility of having another child. 3 years passed in the blink of an eye, and our daughter grew to be as delicate and charming as a carved jade. Shinjunyan wanted to send her to school in the future. So he sold the good land and turned the two shops into one in the capital city. The whole family moved to Y Dynasty's capital. Y Dynasty's capital had many wealthy families. Our life was not as good as the best, but better than the worst. Moreover, Y Dynasty's capital was lively, which he liked very much. This day was the Lantern Festival. Shinjunyan had to prepare for the shop's reopening after the festival. I took Yi to the lantern market. The market was crowded, and it was Yi's first time seeing such an unusual street market. She slipped away from my hand amidst the hustle and bustle. I was drenched in sweat searching for her for half an hour before I heard her angelic voice. "Mother!" Turning around, I saw her being held by a man. Sky lanterns, phoenix lanterns, mandarin duck lanterns, lotus lanterns. The sky was illuminated by the brilliant colors of the lanterns. The man stood under the lanterns, with a young boy by his side, reaching his shoulder. The moment he saw me, his gentle smile froze at the corner of his lips. "Mother!" It was Yi who broke the silence. "Mother!" The young boy seemed to awaken from a dream, almost running towards me. "Mother! You're alive!" He came over and grabbed my sleeve. "I knew it. How could you bear to leave me and father?" I forced my clenched hand to relax. Showing a smile, "Young master, have you mistaken me for someone else?" After all these years, I had become quite fluent in the Y Dynasty's official language. Come, let mother hold you." I brushed off his hand, stepped forward a few steps, intending to take Yi. Naturally happily leapt into my arms. But the person holding her seemed to come back to his senses from his daze. And as soon as I took Yi, my arm was held. Susu. The street was too noisy, his call was almost inaudible. But his hand trembled slightly as he held mine, his eyes were red. "Susu." He called again and again, "Susu, Susu." "Sir, have you also mistaken me for someone else?" I calmly looked up, holding Yi, and stepped back 2 steps. The young boy rushed forward again to grab my hand. "Mother, I'm Chusun." "You don't want your child anymore, mother." "Susu." My arm was held again. "How did you get to Y Dynasty's capital? Why didn't you come to find me? You don't want me, not even the Chusun you gave birth to with great difficulty? Where did these impostors come from?" I shook off both of them with one hand. When did I ever have 2 children? I glanced at them indifferently, held Yi tightly, and turned to leave. Indeed, I haven't forgotten anyone or anything. I even recognized those 2 at a glance. Xiao Chusun has grown taller, looking almost identical to a young Xiao Miran. Xiao Miran, on the other hand, seems to have lost some of his sharpness. Especially when he smiles at Yi. He never smiled so gently at Xiao Chusun. But I don't want to have any more entanglements with them. "Mother, did Yi cause you any trouble?" After returning home, I helped Yi wash up. As we lay in bed, she asked me this. I smiled and kissed her forehead. "No. Yi, be good. You go to sleep first, and mother will go prepare a snack for father." Yi nodded obediently and soon closed her eyes. I left a small lamp on and went to the kitchen. Shinjunyan hadn't had dinner at home, so he must be hungry when he returns. As usual, I checked the time and cooked some noodles, adding 2 eggs. Just as I brought it to the front hall, there was a knock on the door. I opened the door to a smiling face. "Wan Wan." He leaned down and embraced me fully. "Hubby." I smiled and hugged him back. But out of the corner of my eye, I saw a shadow in the dark corner of the courtyard. It was as if struck by lightning. I stood frozen on the spot. "Is Yi asleep?" Shinjunyan asked me. "She is." Shinjunyan was still holding me. Even though Yi is 4 now, he's still very attached to me. The shadow seemed to want to come over but was held back by a force. Shinjunyan kissed my cheek again. The shadow was pulled to the side and knelt down directly. Since Xiao Miran ascended the throne and changed the country's name to S country, the S and Y dynasties have been at odds for years, constantly at war. It seems Xiao Miran has sneaked into the city and doesn't want to reveal his identity. I didn't look at them again and closed the door. But in the middle of the night, there was a gentle knock at the door. 3 quick knocks followed by 2 slow ones. During those years in the enemy camp, this was the signal for messages meant for me. I stared at the canopy above me. The knocking continued, one after another. Eventually, I got up. As soon as I opened the door, someone knelt before me. "Your Highness, I beg you, please meet with His Majesty." Xiao Miran was staying at a secluded inn. He probably rented out the entire place. There were no lights or sounds. I pushed the door open and saw shards of porcelain scattered on the floor and broken tables and chairs. Xiao Miran sat dejectedly in a corner, holding a jar of wine. Hearing someone, he raised his hand, intending to throw it. Seeing it was me, he suddenly stopped. I found a barely intact bench and sat down. Xiao Miran's eyes were fixed on me. After a long while, he spoke. "You married that blacksmith?" "Yes." "That little girl, is she your daughter?" "Yes." "How old is she?" "4." A moment of silence. When he spoke again, his voice was a bit hoarse. "She looks almost exactly like you did as a child." "Surprised you still remember." "How could I forget?" Xiao Miran chuckled. "Susu, your every smile, how could I forget any of it?" "But you actually married someone else." "Jiao Susu, you actually married someone else?" He suddenly smashed the jar he was holding. "We grew up together, childhood sweethearts, young couples, sharing hardships. We pledged our love in the peach blossom forest, promised our parents to be together forever. How dare you marry someone else and have a child with another man?" He approached step by step, suddenly gripping my shoulders. "Did he just touch you?" "Where did he touch you?" I grabbed a piece of porcelain and placed it against my neck. "Your Majesty, if we can't speak properly, there's no need to continue tonight." He recoiled as if burned, quickly releasing me. "Step back 3 steps." Xiao Miran complied. I put down the porcelain and averted my gaze. "Your Majesty, what do you wish to discuss with a common woman at this late hour?" Xiao Miran rushed forward again, grabbing my wrist. "Susu, come back with me. The position of Empress has always been reserved for you. Come back with me, and you'll still be my Empress." This time, it was my turn to laugh. "Your Majesty, do you think that's possible?" I looked at him calmly. Xiao Miran looked back at me. His grip on my hand tightened, but his face grew paler. "Susu, you know many things were beyond my control. The Shui family was powerful. So you felt justified in being two-faced, flirting around." "Do you know why I dared to bet that you'd bury me in the peach blossom forest?" Without waiting for him to speak, I recognized it. "The birthday gift you gave her." The Noble Consort's 19th birthday gift was a piece of calligraphy written by the emperor himself. "Live in the same bed, die in the same grave." He thought I wouldn't recognize those words, yet he had me grind the ink when he wrote it. Xiao Miran opened his mouth but couldn't make a sound. I brushed off his hand and stood up. "Susu." He called to me. "What if I said that only after you left did I realize how wrong I was? Since you left, I can't eat or sleep well, Your Majesty." I interrupted him. Without turning back, "You taught me. Some things, if you endure them, will eventually pass." Xiao Miran did not appear again. He probably went back. The distance between Y capital and S capital is quite far, and he couldn't be away from the court for too long. Xiao Chusun, however, stayed behind. On the first day, he just stood at the courtyard gate, peeking in nervously. On the second day, he squatted on the ground, looking like an abandoned stray dog. On the third day, Shinjunyan brought him inside. Shinjunyan knew everything. That night of endless knocking, he advised me. "Honey, when we forge iron, we value cleanliness and efficiency. A good sword, forged through 1,000 trials, can advance to attack the enemy or retreat to protect oneself. Go, it's just a trial by fire for you." I was somewhat unsure of how to face this trial that Xiao Chusun represented. He was a piece of flesh that had fallen from my body. I had loved him unreservedly. I had given to him without complaint or regret. In the end, he became a sharp blade in someone else's hand. Yet, I couldn't use words like resentment or hatred for the child I gave birth to. Xiao Chusun had grown up a bit and didn't cling to me. Shinjunyan gave him a room, and he was very grateful, calling Uncle Shin all day long. He was also very kind to Yi. But Yi didn't like him very much. They often argued. Yi is not your sister. Mother is Yi's mother, not your mother. At these times, Xiao Chusun would seem drained of energy, his eyes red as he quietly said, "She is my mother." Xiao Chusun stayed here for 3 months. Perhaps afraid of displeasing me, he never called me mother, but insisted on calling Yi sister. He didn't make any special requests, and occasionally when I made snacks for Yi, he would ask her to share a little with him. 3 months later, 2 imperial guards came. I knew he was going to leave. That night, he deliberately got caught in the rain. He was prone to fever and convulsions, so I had to go see him. He grabbed my sleeve. "Mother, do you really not want Chusun anymore?" "Mother, Chusun knows he was wrong." Xiao Chusun didn't have a fever, just a slight cough. With each cough, tears streamed down his face. "Mother, I didn't understand back then." That phrase, Noble Consort Shui taught me to say. She said that if I said those words, you would let go. She acted like a kind person, promising me so many benefits, and I couldn't resist the temptation. I always thought, Mother loved me so much, you wouldn't bear to be angry with me. Growing up, I realized how those words could kill and hurt. 6 years have passed. Xiao Chusun is 12 now. His voice is no longer as clear as it was back then. When he cries, it carries a sense of utter devastation. Mother, Noble Consort Shui did it on purpose. She tricked me into enjoying pleasures, making father displeased. She said she took the infertility potion, but clearly, in the 2nd year after you left, she was pregnant. She said she loved me like her own child, but when I had a fever, she hid it from the imperial physician. Xiao Chusun pulled up his sleeve, revealing a deep bite scar on his arm. If I hadn't bitten myself. Mother, she wanted me dead. He cried even louder, almost unable to speak coherently. Mother, I still remember. Back then in the enemy camp, every time it was Mother who gave me your fingers to bite. Biting until they bled, and still washing horse stables, doing laundry. Those hands were broken and ruined and broken. As Xiao Chusun spoke, he reached for my hands. I avoided him, habitually hiding them behind my back. I couldn't remember anymore. The scars on those hands were more than just a little. Mother, Chusun knows he was wrong. I will never say such hurtful things to Mother or do such hurtful things again. Mother. Xiao Chusun clutched my clothes, looking at me with a face full of tears. Will you forgive Chusun, please? I stood beside him, he sat on the bed. There were countless nights when I held him, he cried, and I cried too. But now, as he cried his heart out, I just looked at him calmly. Mother. Xiao Chusun called me again. I sighed. Taking out a handkerchief from my sleeve, I handed it to him. He quickly wiped away his tears. Seeing me take the quilt, he lay down. I blew out the candle. Sleep, Your Highness. I don't resent him, I don't hate him. But I can no longer love him as I once did. Xiao Chusun also left. Life finally returned to normal. Xinzhenyan traveled to and from the iron shop every day. I continued to do some embroidery work to supplement the household income. Yi had seen enough of the new sights in Y Capital and no longer always wanted to go out and play. Instead, she seemed to be influenced by Xiao Chu and became interested in writing and drawing. Seeing this, Xinzhenyan hurriedly hired a tutor for her to teach her at home. Mid-year, the business at the iron shop suddenly picked up. Xinzhenyan had actually studied for a few years but followed his father's passion for sword making. Y Capital had many nobles and knowledgeable customers. Word spread quickly, and the swords he crafted became highly sought after. One day, I saw Yi doodling a small knife and had a sudden inspiration. I seriously drew a design for a dagger and gave it to Xinzhenyan. Having spent many years in the military camp, I had a fair understanding of weapons. Most of the knives, swords, and even daggers on the market were used by men. There were very few handy self-defense items for women. Xinzhenyan assumed I wanted it for myself and crafted the dagger with special care. He even found a gemstone to set in the sheath. Small, sharp, and beautiful. The day the dagger was displayed in the shop, it received over 10 orders. Soon, it was sold throughout the entire Y dynasty. In just 2 short years, we had become well-known merchants in the Y dynasty. 2 years was indeed enough time for many things to happen. For example, in the neighboring S dynasty, it was said that the deeply rooted Shui family was eradicated overnight. On the day the 9 clans were executed, the favored imperial concubine hanged herself in the noble consort's palace. The second prince was exiled to the border, never to return to the capital. For example, the long-standing enmity between the S and Y dynasties. They actually sat down and negotiated peace. First, the Y dynasty sent envoys to the S capital, then the S dynasty sent envoys with local products to visit Y capital. Rumor had it that the kings of both countries had met privately. I did indeed see Xiao Miran in Y capital. Twice. Once before the Shui family was eradicated. One night, I heard dogs barking outside, followed the sound, and saw a familiar figure. He was just standing outside the courtyard gate, so I didn't pay him any attention. Once after the Shui family was eradicated. One day, I picked up Eve from her girls' school, and she was holding a very familiar straw cricket. It was given to me by a tall man in black clothes. I turned around, but only saw a corner of his garment. I didn't think much of it. Now the bridges are bridges, and the roads are roads. His actions are meaningless. I thought that would be the end of it between us. He would continue being the high and mighty king. I would continue being the ordinary merchant woman. There would be no further intersection. It was a snowy day. Shinjunyan was away on business, and Yi finished school early. I took her to the courtyard to start a fire and roast sweet potatoes. Just as I smelled a hint of sweetness, a white dove flew in. "Mom, there's a letter." Yi ran over excitedly and handed me the letter. I opened it. On the small piece of paper, there were only 3 words. "Mother, run quickly." Xiao Chusun's handwriting. There wouldn't be a third child in this world calling me mother. I immediately felt alarmed. Run? Why run? How to run? Where to run? Shinjunyan was not here, and I had a child with me. I was no longer inexperienced and quickly calmed down. Running or not, we had to be together as a family. I immediately called for a carriage. Shinjunyan was supposed to return home today. So if I left now, I should meet him in the western suburbs. Unexpectedly, before reaching the western suburbs, I encountered him fighting with a group of people. Over the past 2 years, we had earned some money, bought a large house, and hired some guards. But those guards were just ordinary house guards. Shinjunyan was a blacksmith, skilled only in basic martial arts. Seeing a large knife about to strike him, Yi cried out, "Daddy!" She quickly ran over. "Yi!" I followed closely behind. The large knife paused slightly due to this change, and Shinjunyan ran towards us. The masked men hesitated briefly but still followed. Before their knives could strike, I embraced Shinjunyan and suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. The nearest thief froze in shock. Then the knife fell to the ground. I didn't touch her. It's not my fault. He was so frightened that he knelt down directly. Seeing Xiao Miran again, it was still at that inn. Only last time it was at night, this time it was during the day. Last time the inn was in disarray, this time it was neat and orderly. "Susu, did you vomit blood?" He hurried towards me, as if I were still his wife. As if there had never been any estrangement between us. "Be good, and I'll have the imperial doctor treat you, all right?" Seeing him approach, I raised my hand and slapped him. "Xiao Miran, what exactly do you want to do?" Xiao Miran was stunned in place. I grabbed his collar. "If you dare to harm Shinjunyan in the slightest, I will never forgive you in this life." Xiao Miran's body trembled. His cheek was red, but his eyes turned cold. He chuckled softly, pushing me away. Clapping his hands, servants immediately filed in. A phoenix crown, a phoenix robe, everything was complete. Xiao Miran sat down leisurely. What for? Naturally, to bring my Empress back to the court. I was taken aback. For a moment, I couldn't find my words. "Susu, haven't you heard? A few days ago, I already dismissed the harem. Susu, there's no one left to compete with you, aren't you happy?" I clenched my fists, looking at the smile on Xiao Miran's lips. Shui Ryu has long since taken her own life out of guilt. Prime Minister Shui has already been brought to justice. "Susu, you should return." I laughed, once. And again. Susu, I've arranged everything. You can bring Yi along. I'll treat her as my own daughter. I've even thought of a title for her. How about Princess Yi? When Yi returns, the siblings. Xiao Miran. I interrupted him. You might as well kill me. Kill me, kill Shinjunyan, and kill Yi. After all, without Shinjunyan, Yi and I won't survive alone. The air was silent for a moment. Then, Xiao Miran suddenly smashed the teacup in his hand. Jiao Susu, what is so good about that blacksmith? Can't you see today? He can't protect you at all. His eyes red, he rushed to me, grabbing my wrist. What can he give you? A house and a few shops. He has nothing at all. Would you refuse the half of the kingdom I offer for him? He forced me to retreat step by step, finally pinning me against the wall. Susu, I won't make that mistake again. Susu, come back with me. Only you, Susu, only you are wholeheartedly devoted to me. Only with you by my side can I sleep peacefully. Is that so? I tugged at the corner of my lips. A sharp blade emerged from my sleeve, piercing through his shoulder without hesitation. It hasn't been for a long time. In his shocked gaze, I pulled out the dagger and stabbed again. Forcing him to the table corner, Xiao Miran, not every choice has a way back. Pulling out the dagger. Blood stained the corner of my lips. Xiao Miran slid down along the table corner. I turned around. He grabbed my skirt hem, tears falling in large drops. Susu, you and I have been through life and death together for decades. It was just a moment of distraction. Why be so cruel to me? If I hadn't arrived in time today, Shinjunyan would already be a corpse. I stared coldly at him, pulling the skirt hem from his hand. Your Majesty, whatever you have, come at me. Jiao Susu can accompany you to conquer the world, can accompany Shinjunyan to forge iron, and is not afraid of the flames of the underworld. Clutching the dagger tightly, I stepped forward to leave. At the door, the sun was blazing. I turned back, looking at the man who had held my heart for half my life. Miran. Tears blurred the face that was once etched in my heart. When I married you, you had nothing as well. Shinjunyan and I did not move away from Y Capital. If someone wants to find us, moving to the ends of the earth won't help. I never saw Xiao Miran again. The day after leaving the inn, a group of people hurriedly left Y Capital. Before leaving, they sent all kinds of rare and precious medicines. My body was actually fine. That fake death pill from back then didn't make me forget some things. It just made me vomit blood when my emotions were intensely stirred. That day, seeing Shinjunyan on the brink of life and death, I was terrified, and that's why I vomited blood. Unexpectedly, it resolved the crisis at the time. In late spring, we opened a new embroidery shop. Having run the iron shop for so long, I tasted the fun of doing business. But those swords and blades were ultimately not my interest. Every day Shinjunyan went to the iron shop, I went to the embroidery shop, and Yi went to the girls' school. At night, the family sat together for a lively dinner. Life was peaceful and fulfilling. It was much later that I heard news from the S dynasty. It was said that the brave and battle-hardened founding emperor had inexplicably developed a heart disease. Yet he insisted on leading battles at the border despite his condition. In one major battle, he was seriously injured and bedridden ever since. Fortunately, the crown prince was young and capable, taking over the governance. The factional struggles in the court had also been cleared, barely stabilizing the foundation. I heard this news in a tea house. Mother, this peanut brittle is so delicious, let's bring some for father, shall we? Yi cheerfully called the waiter, packing a whole portion of peanut brittle. As we stepped out, we saw Shinjunyan getting off the carriage. The road is slippery in the cold, I came to take my wife home. He smiled, lifting Yi in his arms, and reached out to me. I smiled back at him. Stepping forward, I took his hand,